Anthony Joshua just turned down a massive $175 million Trilogy deal, and nobody can believe what he said next. His shocking reason left the entire boxing world speechless, because this move could change everything overnight.
What do you want your fans to see Saturday night, Ryan?
The truth. That's it. The truth. We both been saying a lot of things, and I just want the truth to play out. That's it.
And Gervonta, Ryan has a lot of young ladies who follow him who are big fans, so you get to play the role of bad guy for them. They don't want to see his face get messed up.
Anthony Joshua had everything lined up. The Paul win, the Fury fight, the comeback, the money. And then, 10 days after the biggest knockout of his career, he was pulled from a wrecked car on a Nigerian highway, and 2 of his closest friends were dead. What Joshua chose to do after that has left the entire boxing world without words. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why he turned down a massive deal, and why the reason tells you more about this man than any fight he's ever had.
Knockout victory over Jake Paul, a high-profile bout that had put him back in the spotlight and on the path toward future fights, including a rumored matchup with Tyson Fury. In the hours after the accident, footage and images circulated online showing Joshua dazed beside the wrecked vehicle, surrounded by concerned bystanders and emergency responders. Now, in his first public words since the tragedy, Anthony Joshua has issued a powerful and emotional statement that has stirred millions of fans. In it, he declared,
"Does this look like a million?"
If you clicked this video, you already know Anthony Joshua's 2025 ended on an incredible high. December 19, Miami, Kaseya Center. Joshua stopped Jake Paul in 6 rounds on Netflix, broke his jaw, and delivered the most complete performance of his comeback era. After a 15-month layoff and a brutal loss to Daniel Dubois, he looked like himself again, sharp, powerful, focused. Most people watching that night thought 2026 was set. A tune-up in March, Tyson Fury in August under Riyadh season, the all-British fight that British boxing has been waiting a decade for. The money, the moment, the legacy fight, all of it was right there. 10 days later, Joshua was pulled from a wrecked Lexus SUV on the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. This video breaks down 3 things. First, what actually happened on December 29 and who Joshua lost that day. Second, the decisions Joshua made in the weeks after that have left boxing completely stunned, including turning down a major rival promoter's offer. And third, the twist that reframes everything. What Joshua is doing right now to prepare for a comeback that nobody expected to look like this. To understand why Joshua's decision hit so hard, you have to understand what he was building toward. The Paul win on December 19 was not just a knockout, it was a statement. Joshua had returned from a knockout loss to Dubois, rebuilt under a new training setup, and delivered 6 clean rounds against one of boxing's biggest stars. He was sharp, he was dangerous, and he was talking about Tyson Fury in the post-fight interview with fire in his voice. "If Tyson Fury is as serious as he thinks he is," Joshua said after beating Paul, "step in the ring with me next if you're a real bad boy." His promoter, Eddie Hearn, confirmed the plan: a March tune-up under Riyadh season, then Fury in August. It was the clearest, most logical roadmap Joshua had been on in years. 10 days later, on December 29, Joshua was a passenger in a Lexus SUV on the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway in Nigeria, the most dangerous highway in the country, with more than 600 fatalities over a 27-month stretch. The vehicle lost control while overtaking a stationary truck at excessive speed. The crash was catastrophic. And this is where the story gets complicated. Now, most people who covered this story reported the facts of the crash, but there's something they all left out, and it changes everything about why Joshua's rejection of that deal matters so much. The two men who died on that highway were not just staff. They were the people who had been with Joshua for a decade. Sina Ghami was Joshua's strength and conditioning coach, a man who worked with him for 10 years, who had also trained NFL player Le'Veon Bell and NBA star Draymond Green, and who was photographed conditioning training with Joshua in Miami just weeks before the fight with Paul. He posted a final Instagram story showing a black SUV in Lagos hours before the crash. Kevin Latif Ayodele was Joshua's personal trainer. His first Instagram photo ever published was a picture of a young, fresh-faced Joshua in the early stages of his fighting career. Hours before the accident, Ayodele was in a video on Joshua's Instagram story, playing ping pong with him, laughing. Nigeria's president, Bola Tinubu, called Joshua in the hospital. John Fury posted a video saying, "AJ, God had his arms wrapped around you tight." Eddie Hearn's statement described Ghami and Ayodele as close friends and team members and called them great men. Joshua had minor injuries. He survived. They did not. When a man loses the people who were with him at 6 a.m. every morning, who pushed him through every camp, who were there before the crowds and the money and the fame, you don't come back from that on a deadline. You don't come back for $175 million. But that's not even the most important part of this story. And this is where the real story, the one that left boxing completely speechless, finally emerges. Because here is what Anthony Joshua did after surviving that crash. First, he rejected a substantial offer from a rival promoter. Eddie Hearn confirmed it, telling media in the aftermath that Joshua had turned down the deal, while Hearn hinted that a major announcement of his own was coming. Hearn posted a single word on Instagram alongside a photo of himself and Joshua at a ring walk: loading. Second, Joshua relocated to Dubai. He formally filed a change of residence across his reported $150 million business empire, moving away from the UK while he recovered physically and mentally. Dubai has long been his preferred training base. He trained there in camps going back years, famously sparring on the Burj Al Arab helipad in 2017. But this move was different. It was a full reset. Third, and this is the part that stopped boxing in its tracks, Joshua flew to Ukraine at the personal invitation of Oleksandr Usyk, the man who beat him twice, the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. Usyk invited Joshua to his own facility in Ukraine. Joshua trained twice a day with Usyk's ready-to-fight team. He visited Maidan. He immersed in Ukrainian culture alongside the man who handed him 2 of the 3 losses on his record. Usyk said his goal was to share his energy with Joshua during the hardest stretch of his life. Joshua called the experience phenomenal. Think about what that is. Not a promotional stunt, not a PR exercise. A man who just survived a crash that killed his friends, who turned down a massive payday, who stepped away from everything, going to sit with his greatest rival, to train, to grieve, to rebuild. The boxing world had nothing to say, because there's nothing to say to that. But here's what nobody is connecting right now, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. Here's the twist that reframes everything about Joshua's decision to say no. By every metric, taking that deal made sense. Joshua, at 36, coming off a win, recovering from non-life-threatening injuries, the financial case for getting back in the ring fast was real. Multiple sources reported that the Tyson-Fury fight had been agreed behind the scenes. Hearn himself said he was targeting a July return. The money was there. But Joshua chose something different. He chose time. And here's the thing about that choice. When you train with someone for 10 years, when a man is there at every weigh-in, every camp, every dark morning when nobody else is watching, and then you watch him get pulled out of the same wreck you survived, something changes in you. The calculation shifts. Hearn acknowledged it plainly. Physically, Joshua was not yet in a position to return to camp. But this isn't just physical. This is a man who has been staring at the sport's biggest fight, Tyson-Fury, the all-British showdown, the legacy bout, and chose not to sprint toward it while he was still in pieces. Tyson-Fury, preparing for his own comeback against Aslanbek Makhmudov, said it best after hearing about the crash. Life is very short, very precious, and very fragile. Anything could happen at any given moment. Joshua didn't reject $175 million because he had a better offer. He rejected it because two men who believed in him before anyone else did are gone. Because Usyk called him brother and meant it. Because a car wreck on a Nigerian highway put every contract and every deadline in its proper place. And when Joshua does come back and Hearn's loading post says he will, the man who walks into that ring will carry something no dollar figure can account for. Here's where we land. Anthony Joshua had the best 10 days of his career comeback, and then the worst 10 days of his life. He survived. He lost the people who helped make him, and he made a series of decisions that had nothing to do with boxing logic and everything to do with what matters when the sport is stripped away. He turned down the money. He went to Dubai. He went to Kiev. He trained with Usyk. He is loading. That is a man who came back from something. Not a loss, not a bad camp, something real. And when a fighter comes back from something real, not for the payday, not for the headlines, but because he still has something to prove to himself, that is the most dangerous version of any fighter in the world. Here's the question that boxing has to answer. When Anthony Joshua finally walks back into that ring, is he coming back as a man who survived or as a man who was reborn? And does the answer to that question make Tyson Fury more nervous than any contract ever could? Drop your take below. If you want the full story on everything happening in boxing before it hits mainstream, hit subscribe.